go to one website. You kind of got to look at all the websites because there's a wide variety of stuff that's available on various websites, whether it's the third-party sites, NASCAR.com or DaleJr.com. They all carry different merchandise. So if you're looking for some new stuff, go and check it out online. All right, let's move over to Atlanta and some of the changes that have been made this season. I was just reading an article online, just briefly. I wanted to bring it up because I thought it was interesting. This smaller field of 40 cars and the new charter system that's in place now. With this new charter system, if you don't own one of these charters, it's way less advantageous for you to go to the racetrack every weekend like the start and park guys used to do. And basically just kind of work your way through the weekend, get into the race, run a couple of laps, and park it. And I think that's part of the reason why they put these charters in place was to get rid of the start and parks. And also, therefore, shrinking the field down by 3 cars takes away the incentive for those teams to go and do that. And I think it was a wise move on NASCAR's part. This weekend, which was interesting, the article I was reading was talking about how we only have 39 cars in the field this weekend. And they were saying that we could probably expect to only see some 37 cars showing up to the racetrack every weekend here on out. If you are a team that doesn't have a major sponsor, again, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for you to start and park anymore, because it's probably not going to be any kind of cost advantage. They're no longer disclosing the race winnings anymore, but the speculation is that the charter teams are getting a significantly larger cut of the pie every weekend. And so if you're a start and park team and driver, then you're probably not getting the kind of money that you used to. So what does this all mean? Basically, it all means that now we probably will only have about 37, obviously 40, but probably more than likely 37 cars on the racetrack for the Sprint Cup Series every Saturday night or Sunday racing. But the good news is all those teams have sponsors, and they will probably be running the whole race. And I like that. I like the fact that all of those teams out there all will be running all the laps and will actually be competing at the top level. You know, before we had those smaller teams that would get on the track and then they would pitch off, and you would basically end up with a 37-car field anyways. So now you have a better chance to have all the drivers on the track being competitive and running the entire race. And I think that's good. I think that's good for NASCAR. I think that's good for the teams. And it seems to me like that was the wise move as NASCAR moves forward and continues to try to do everything it can to be viable and successful and bringing more people not only to the racetracks but watching on TV as well. Now, this brings me to the low downforce package. And we'll talk qualifying here in a moment, but this brings me to the low downforce package. The smaller rear spoiler, the changes in the oil pan and the splitter in the front that's supposed to cause a larger disturbance in the air behind the car to affect whatever car is trailing, while at the same time providing a little less stability for the car in and of itself. I was probably one of the few people last season that was not a huge fan of this low downforce package and what we saw last year. I don't know. The few races that they ran it, and I was really vocal last year, I remember. The few races that we ran this low downforce package, it seemed like, yeah, it got the cars squirrelier, but, you know, at the end of the race, it ended up still being the race winner, still, you know, winning by so many seconds, and the field still strung out. I didn't see it really having a huge effect on the race in and of itself. Now, maybe that's an unfair assessment for me because I watch every single race, and because I watch every single race, I already enjoy NASCAR, and so I follow so many of the minute details and the intricacies every Sunday that even if you have a race that goes green for a majority of the time and it doesn't have a lot of passing, I'm okay with that. I'm following Dale Jr., I'm watching his lap times, I'm paying attention to him, and so I find that exciting every weekend, regardless of what everybody else is doing. So, because of that, it's probably not going to have a bad effect on the racing. My bigger concern is how does it go and affect Dale Earnhardt Jr.? Let's be honest. I mean, that's where my concern comes in. Is this going to affect my driver and make it, how is he going to adapt to this? Because I want to see him run well. And when we had the low downforce package last year, he didn't run very well in those few races. So heading into this weekend in the first practice, Dale Jr. was really mired back. I mean, he was back in I think he was like in the 26th place. Never ran a 10-lap run to get a gauge on how fast the car was on the long run. Qualifying, he made it through round 1, made it into round 2, and qualified 17th. Now, he went out and tweeted after that qualifying run that he was not too upset with starting in the 17th spot, said it was a fun track you can move around on, big focus on practice tomorrow. Now, as it relates to Atlanta, this is going to be the last time they run it that it'll be like this because they're going to repave it after, I think it'll be done by June, but we only race here once a year now. Really wish that we raced here twice a year. I love this racetrack. So this is once they repave it, it's going to have all kinds of grip, and we're not going to have the same type of issues that the drivers are having. The cars are super, super loose. If you've been watching any of the practices or qualifying yesterday, the cars are stupid loose. So going into today's practice, this is where I was really kind of going, all right, how's Dale Jr.? Is he able to adapt to this? Are we going to be okay come Sunday? And it turns out we might be all right. He, in final practice, was 4th on the leaderboard. And as I've mentioned time and time again, you can't really pay attention to that. That's a single lap. It doesn't really account for, in practice, all the different variables involved in the in the drivers, who had fresh tires, who didn't when they ran that lap. You got to look at the consecutive 10-lap averages. And I'm happy to say that Dale Jr. was 6th in the best 10 consecutive lap averages. And what's interesting about this is that he did that later in the run. So that's closer to race time. When you look at the top 3, and I'm getting really into the weeds on this, but this plays into my prediction for Dale Jr. on Sunday. But when you really get into the intricacies of this or into the details, you look at the top 3 on the 10-lap consecutive average, Jamie McMurray, Ryan Newman, and Jimmy Johnson. And those were all on their first runs. So lap 1 through 10. When you get further down the list, you go Kurt Busch, Austin Dillon, and then Dale Jr. Now, Kurt Busch and Austin Dillon did it on their 27 to 36 laps. Austin Dillon his 21st to 30 lap. Dale Jr. had his best run 37th to 46. So his 37th lap to his 46th lap. He had the 6th best 10-lap consecutive average. So what does that all mean? Well, here's how I break it down. I discount 1 through 3 because those were the first runs and the track was at its coolest. And so, therefore, they're going to run a little bit faster. Okay. And just by example, Jamie McMurray, average speed was 181.48. Dale Jr.'s was 180.79. Okay. And then when you look at Kurt Busch and Austin Dillon, they did it a few laps faster than Dale Jr. Okay. So Dale Jr., among everybody above him, had his fastest consecutive 10-lap average, the furthest into practice, closest to race time. That's good. That's really good. And the same thing kind of continues when you go down the rest of the list. You got Ryan Blaney, 7th 10-lap average, Martin Truex, Matt Kenseth, and Denny Hamlin. Matt Kenseth and Denny Hamlin, again, that was on their 1st through 10. So that was at the beginning of practice. So Dale Jr., he qualified 17th and even said himself that he was okay with that. He tweeted out right after final practice, said, "Car felt good in practice today. Man, this place is slick. It's going to be a pain in the ass and a lot of fun tomorrow, all at the same time." Before I give you my prediction, this is what we got to watch out for. I think Dale Jr.'s in pretty good shape, but the cars are really loose. I mean, really loose. You're going to have to really push the cars closer to the edge than you already do in order to maintain your speed and be consistent. Dale Jr. was also running the high side for a good portion of the practices. They were showing this, of the practice, I should say. They were showing this on the during the television coverage. And that always carries risk. Dale Jr. likes running the high line, likes getting it up there against the wall, but with a new low downforce package, a loose car, that presents its risk. So this is going to be a tough race tomorrow. He's going to have to really be on his game. He's going to really have to concentrate even more so than they normally do. And he's going to really have to keep it in one piece, and I think it's going to be somewhat of an attrition race. Can these guys keep their wheels out from under them and maintain their track position? So, what does this all mean? What's my prediction for tomorrow's race? I say Dale Jr. cautiously, comes home with a top 5. My gut wants me to say top 10. To be honest with you, going into the race today or tomorrow, prior to all this, I was thinking that I wasn't going to even be able to give him a top 10 prediction because, again, he didn't perform well with this low downforce, race package. But maybe they have found something. Everything so far looks good. So keeping things, like all things being relative, normal race weekend, this type of qualifying and these types of practices, a top 5 is good. There's a lot of variables involved, so I will predict. Boy, I'm really wishy-washy today, aren't I? I'm really kind of bouncing back and forth. Fine, I'll commit a cautious top 5. Top 5 for Dale Earnhardt Jr. come Sunday, and then I'll be happy with that. I'll be happy with the top 10. I just want to see these guys get some confidence. I want Dale Jr. to get some confidence. It means so much to him to have that confidence. It plays in so much when it comes to his performance, what kind of mood he's in, and his confidence level. It has a huge impact on his driving every single weekend. So, again, we'll say cautious, but still top 5 for Dale Earnhardt Jr. come Sunday. And that pretty much wraps up this week's race preview. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed recording it. I'm going to get this uploaded so that you can go and listen to it and then go sit down and watch the trucks and the Xfinity Series race and see what that tells us about tomorrow's race. Again, if you don't already subscribe on iTunes, please do. You can find me there, The John Justice Show and My Nerd World. Drop me a rating while you're at it. That I would appreciate that. Leave a comment. If you ever want to email me, again, talkshownerd@gmail.com. talkshownerd@gmail.com. If you want to comment, you want me to cover a topic on Dale Jr. that I haven't covered before, you can do that by emailing me, talkshownerd@gmail.com. Also find me up on Twitter as well, @JohnJustice, JON, @JohnJustice. So, I hope you enjoy the race on Sunday, and until we talk next week with next week's race preview, sorry, I got to find my button for the outro. Go Junior.
My Nerd World.
And finally, one of the most unusual pre-race prayers you will ever hear.
Heavenly Father, we thank you tonight for all your blessings. You said in all things give thanks. So we want to thank you tonight for these mighty machines that you've brought before us. Thank you for the Dodges and the Toyotas. Thank you for the Fords. And most of all, we thank you for Roush and Yates partnering to give us the power